Psalm 44, 1 through 3 says, O God, we have heard with our ears. Our fathers have told us the works that you did in their days, in the days of old. You with your own hand drove out the nations, and then you planted them. You afflicted all the peoples, and then you spread them abroad. For by their own sword they did not possess the land, and their own arm did not save them. But your right hand and your right arm and the light of your presence for you favored them. Well, if you're joining us in reading through this 6-month reading plan through the book of Psalms, today's reading is Psalm 44, the title through verse 12, and I encourage you to read that passage. Well, this psalm is divided into 2 parts. Most of the first part is a discussion of what God has done in the past. The last section of today's reading begins to discuss the situation that the people currently are in and a plea to God that He deliver them. Now, today we're going to focus on the importance of knowing God's history. When you were in school, even elementary school, did you ever wonder why you were studying certain subjects, particularly history and geography? Many people in school feel that these are 2 subjects that not only don't need to be emphasized, but may not even need to be taught. This kind of thinking really comes out when you see street interviews where people don't know anything about the War of Independence, the Civil War, or any major events in American or world history. You see these people in the interviews not even being able to pick out continents, much less countries. And on occasion, you might see a game show where biblical history is discussed, and you'll see even those who purport to have a relationship with God who don't know answers to the simple questions. So it's no wonder that people struggle when faced with a hostile environment of some kind. Now, it's vitally important that we know our history. We cannot know how God will act if we don't know how He has acted in the past. We certainly will not know how to act if we don't know how others have acted before us. And we certainly will become depressed and dejected when faced with certain situations if we don't know the history of those who have gone through similar things before. Now, people say that they lose their faith in God when bad things happen to them. While they may lose their comfort about talking about God, their faith was not based on history. It was based on something else. Now, it's important for us to train our children and ourselves in God's history. This requires that we have an understanding of the Old Testament and the New Testament, that we have an understanding of Israel's history. It also requires that we have an understanding of church history from the book of Acts all the way through today. Now, without that understanding, without our training, we'll fall by the wayside when struggles come along or appear. If you would like a PDF copy of this entire reading plan, please send an email to phineasjacobus@running2him.net.